Lecture topic: Attaining the Nisba of the Sahaba Ikram.
Yesterday we discussed the aspect about the heart being ready to take on grief that might come upon it, but for the sake of Allah Ta'ala. In the Quran Sharif, Allah Ta'ala mentions the situation that came upon the Sahaba Ikram, that to what extent they bore this, that for the sake of the deen of Allah Ta'ala, they were ready to take on fear, to take on grief. As mentioned, that we have to keep asking for afiyat. We don't ask for any of these things. I mean, the aspect which the Sahaba had to face when the battle of the trench took place. So Allah Ta'ala says, إِذْ جَاءُوكُمْ مِنْ فَوْقِكُمْ وَمِنْ أَسْفَلَ مِنْكُمْ وَإِذْ زَاغَتِ الْأَبْصَارُ وَبَلَغَتِ الْقُلُوبُ الْحَنَاجِرَ وَتَظُنُّونَ بِاللَّهِ الظُّنُونَ. Further Allah says, هُنَالِكَ ابْتُلِيَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَزُلْزِلُوا زِلْزَالًا شَدِيدًا. No time to go into the entire detail of this ayat of the Quran Sharif, but the one aspect that's here, the description of what became the situation at that time. This expression is used in English as well, that sometimes when a person was really shocked, sort of afraid of something, you see his heart was in his mouth. Now that's the expression that was already used in the Quran Sharif. Allah Ta'ala had revealed this expression, which is used in Arabic, وَبَلَغَتِ الْقُلُوبُ الْحَنَاجِرِ, that the enemy had surrounded the Muslims from every direction, and in such a manner that if they had to run over them, if they had to breach the trench, then outwardly, in terms of the means, they would have ran over Madinah Munawwara completely. And all the forces had joined up of the disbelievers. They had all, this coalition had been formed. So Allah Ta'ala says, and the situation became so severe, Allah Ta'ala is describing it in the Quran Sharif regarding the Sahaba, وَبَلَغَتِ الْقُلُوبُ الْحَنَاجِرِ, that your, as our expression would be, your hearts were in your mouths. Now, the hearts were in the mouths for what? To defend the deen of Allah Ta'ala. And then in the ayat, part that follows, وَزُلْزِلُوا زِلْزَالًا شَدِيدًا, they were really shaken. Now this was a specific situation on which this ayat was revealed, but the ayat is not confined to that situation. It is for all times, for ibrat, for us, for every situation as well. So one was this situation where they were surrounded by the physical enemy around them, and this became the extent of fear. As human beings, part of insan. So now the point is that this fear comes along with grief as well, that now what next, how this will unfold, what will happen. So this is the lesson to be drawn from here, that the enemies of nafs and shaitan are often surrounding a person in such a way that they keep whispering grief in his heart, that you lost out from this, you lost out from that, you are being just losing out on everything, others seem to be enjoying themselves, and then all kinds of fear sometimes about the future, that now you have taken on this path, what's going to happen, how are you going to earn a living, what's going to happen, all these kind of things is a fear. Sometimes the grief of so-called losing out on sin, and the fear of what's going to be the case in the future. All this is the lesson to take, that the Sahaba Ikram, they didn't let this become a barrier in getting closer to Allah Ta'ala. That was part of human nature, that these emotions were felt, but that didn't become a barrier in doing what Allah Ta'ala wanted, what will please Allah Ta'ala. So in the midst of all that, they still did what pleased Allah Ta'ala. This is the prescription. Obviously we can never reach the rank of the lowest Sahabi, everybody put together, but the Mashayikh explain, the person who wants the Nisbat of the Sahaba Ikram, in other words, he wants to connect himself to Allah Ta'ala in the manner that the Sahaba connected themselves. Then he must be ready to take on this grief of giving up sin on his heart, and not allow the fear of the future to become a barrier in obeying Allah Ta'ala. He's ready for this, he'll gain the Nisbat of the Sahaba Ikram, though there'll be worlds of difference between anybody else's Nisbat and the Nisbat of the Sahaba Ikram. Their connection with Allah Ta'ala and anybody else, nobody can match that, come close to it. But the basic essence of that nisbat, he will get as well. So this is the aspect to take to heart, that come what may, whether it seems like there's some fear, whether it is some kind of grief which shaitan is whispering, all this will not allow one to become deterred. We are neither the worshippers of enjoyment, we are neither the worshippers of grief, we worship Allah Ta'ala. So whatever situation comes, whether it is a situation of grief, whether it is a situation of happiness, whatever it might be, our commitment to obey Allah Ta'ala will not waver. That must remain, whether it is poverty, whether it is wealth, whether it is health, or whether it is sickness. The conditions must not become a barrier in obeying Allah Ta'ala. So when a person has taken this, then inshallah there's no issue that he will have, he will, despite challenges, still be content, will be happy, and life will carry on. Allah Ta'ala.
अल्लाह अल्लाह कैसा प्यारा नाम है, आशिकों का मीना और जाम है।